The fact that I'm going to be talking about a book that's a part of a series that is named after a small town in the Midwest doesn't quite go with the dad on vacation vibe I dressed for today, but that's okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Freshly and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. And welcome to day 2 of this Booker review week that I'm doing. As a reminder, the schedule is as follows. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and day 7 is rankings and winner predictions. But for now, let's get into today's review, which is of O. William by Elizabeth Strout. Starting with our synopsis, O. William is actually the 3rd book in a series known as the Amgash series, titled after a town that our narrator, or our usual narrator throughout the series, grew up in. That narrator is Lucy Barton, who was married to William, that's right, the William of O. William. The very same. So as far as like the series as a whole goes, this 3rd book is giving us more background on William himself, as well as how Lucy and William are at like the time that the book exists. Right off the bat, let's address how this is a part of a series, because some people really don't love the fact that books in series can be longlisted, shortlisted, or win the Booker Prize. Personally, I prefer the way the rules are now, that books in series are eligible, because it would be really sad if we missed out on some really well-written books just because they happen to not be the first book in the series. Or maybe people don't want books in series at all. But even still, I stand by, I want those books to be included. Like, this is a story in itself. It just so happens to be a part of a larger story. Also, in talking to a Booker judge from one of the past Booker Prizes, I can confirm what we probably knew or assumed already, which is that only the book that is being submitted is considered at all when it comes to the prize. So, for example, this book is the only book that is being considered when deciding if it's longlisted, shortlisted, etc., without taking into account anything that happens in the other books in the series. And I think it's worth noting that just as somebody could technically say something about the characters that didn't exist specifically in this book while going about judging, there's likely somebody else that would say, hey, we're not supposed to do that. You can't take that into account. However, for my review today, I am going to be talking about the whole series because this is my channel and I can do what I want. So let's talk about my favorite themes. They are from this book, but I'm going to reference what happens in other books. So let's start with perspective. I think that that's a big thing in the series as a whole and just continues in this book, which is this idea of having perspective on certain things, on certain issues, on certain jobs even. So in the first book, we get to learn quite a bit about Lucy, but it's not really in depth about her. You kind of get this like surface level, you know that there's more that you're not getting. And not only that, you get these like little talking points or like gossip almost about other people that lived in the town that Lucy grew up in. And then in the second book, it's almost like short stories, but not quite, in that it's based off of a bunch of people from that town. And then you get to see more information about these people that you just heard gossip about initially. You start to understand why they did the things that they did. You get more context around it and a better perspective. That only continues through into the 3rd book, where we get more perspective on William. And I think based off of what we hear in the first book about William, it would be easy to disregard him and to just dislike him as a person, because while you do hear about some good that he does, you also hear about one big not good thing that he does, and it's really easy to judge him for that. But getting this 3rd book and getting a more well-rounded view of him helps you to understand why Lucy and William are still friends, why they can go for long periods of time without talking and then reconnect like nothing's changed. And then the other theme that I want to talk about is this idea of processing our past, the things that happened to us. Because while I think that this is really easy to see from Lucy's perspective, and I did talk a lot about when I did like my initial thoughts as I was reading this book and the series as a whole in Thailand, what I didn't talk about was how you also got this from William. You see it more from Lucy because she's oftentimes our narrator, with the exception of the second book where we get to see other people that Lucy's not directly in contact with. So we get to see how Lucy thinks of her own past and we see her process that. But then in this 3rd book, we get to see how Lucy watches another person process their own past and what that's like for them. And I think that that's really cool. Do I think it's much cooler having read the first 2 books? Yes, absolutely. I personally think that if you want to get the full enjoyment out of this book that you can, I would read the first 2. I enjoyed this series way more than I expected to. However, I do think that this book also stands on its own, and I think it's a valuable read on its own. Do I think it's gonna win the Booker Prize? Well, you know what, I'll keep that, you probably know from my face, but I'll still keep that information to myself until I talk about predictions. Anyways, overall, I did really enjoy this book. I think it and the series as a whole, it's just a great read. So would the Booker Frog and I recommend it? Yes. I do think that this book out of the 3 would maybe be my least favorite. I don't know, I go back and forth. It's weird because I feel like at different times, like each one of them have been both my favorite and my least favorite, but they all kind of stand alone despite the fact that they're all like about the same thing. And they have very much like the same themes, I would say, throughout all 3, but they just each approach those themes in a different way. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy watching. Please let me know what you think of O. William and the Amgash series as a whole, if you've read all of it. And also let me know if you'll be reading the 4th book when that one comes out. Is it out yet? I know it's soonish, right? And also let me know if you think that this could be our Booker winner. And of course, do consider subscribing if you haven't already, as we are still at the very beginning of this week of Booker reviews. So there's a lot of reviews to be had and a fun ranking to wrap it all up. So I hope to see you there. Bye.